It's been 10 days since the 39 students of the Federal College of Forestry Mechanization, Afaka in Igabi, local government area of Kaduna State, were abducted from their hostel by bandits. With no sign or date for the release of their wards, the parents of the kidnapped students have taken to the streets to register their anger. From the main gate of the college, the protesters blocked the road leading to the Kaduna airport from Mando, thereby causing heavy vehicular traffic. Holding placards with various inscriptions, singing and crying for help, the aggrieved parents wonder why it is taking security agencies much longer to rescue the kidnapped students, unlike in the kidnap incidents in Katsina, Zamfara and Niger states, where the students were released in good time. They issue an ultimatum to the government to facilitate the rescue of the students.
We have called for this press conference to call the attention of government at the state and federal level and all stakeholders involved and indeed the world to act with dispatch to ensure the immediate and safe release of our children.
This woman, Linda Abu, is the mother of one of the abducted female students. She wonders why her child will be a victim of kidnapping after the sacrifice our late husband made to the country's armed forces.
Please hear our cry. Hear our cry and talk to the government. Let them come out to help us. Let them come out to help us.
Although the Kaduna state government and security agencies are yet to respond to the ultimatum given by these parents, the state government has said it will not engage bandits in any form of negotiation or dialogue.
Our position in the Kaduna state government has been clear, unequivocal and consistent. Bandits, cattle rustlers and armed militias must be degraded and decimated to a state of unconditional submission to constituted authority. We will neither negotiate with criminals of any description, nor support any grant of amnesty to them.
What appears paramount at this point is for a collective collaboration of all stakeholders to ensure the safe and immediate release of the 39 students whose fate in the custody of their abductors is still unknown.
Well, those visuals are pretty difficult to watch. I mean, when you see a mother crying out and saying she already lost her husband to, well, her husband already paid the supreme price for this country, and now her daughter is in the hands of kidnappers, and she's crying and asking that something be done about it to bring her back alongside other parents there. It's really heartrending to watch. Nonetheless, that's a matter we intend to discuss this morning. Just what is going on with the release, securing the release of those students who were abducted by bandits, and perhaps some others whose release is still being worked on. Some people make a differentiation between a rescue and a release, but not for a lot of Nigerians. You know, they just want their children to be back home. We have with us this morning Francis Koza, who is a legal practitioner and a public affairs commentator. He's also from Kaduna State, particularly Zango, Kata, local government. You're welcome to Sunrise Daily this morning.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
Well, I don't know how you internalized a lot of the news that came in from Kaduna over the last couple of weeks. It would seem that there was a barrage of attacks on Kaduna, and some people have said, it's because of the stance of the governor, that, because the governor said they were not going to negotiate with terrorists or bandits, then maybe the bandits decided to show some force. Because we saw, it would seem that every week there was something to report from Kaduna in terms of banditry. We saw an attack on the airport officers' mess. We saw an attack on a school. The school, the forestry school. We also saw an attack on a secondary school. Give us a sense of, what you make of the attacks that happened in Kaduna over the last couple of weeks.
Thank you very much. Generally, this question of insecurity is not just a Kaduna State affair. It's a national affair.
Indeed.
Attacks are happening everywhere in this country. And the challenge is not just to the Kaduna State government or to citizens of Kaduna State or residents of Kaduna State, but to Nigerians generally. Now, coming back home in Kaduna State, yes, there has been some attacks here and there. When you discover that the magnitude of these attacks have substantially reduced. Why? Because last year, the attacks were very massive. My community was affected. My community was massively destroyed. And a lot of people died as a result of that. But because of the activities of government, right from last year to this date, the attacks have reduced in scale. They have reduced to general attacks, but to specific soft targets. That's what they do now. That's what they do now. Now, so what government have done since last year to this year is government now decided that, look, let us bring security more closer to the people. And so if you go to Kaduna villages, you find clusters of military formations, clusters of police formations all over the place. In my village, we have police formation, we have military formation there, and they do their response aptly. Now, when you talk about the Afaka issue now, as you rightly pointed out, some people were rescued from that attack. Immediately they attacked, the security agencies were mobilized to counter them and to attack them. And the 39 students that were taken away are there. And I want to assure you that, look, this problem, the state government have made it categorically clear that they are not going to negotiate, they are not going to pay ransom to anybody. Because paying ransom is an encouragement for the bandit to continue their activities. And let me make a point. Let me just finish my point. Paying ransom is going to encourage the bandits to continue with their nefarious activities, with their criminal activities. And so he said, no. And if Nigerians could agree that we are not going to pay ransom, I'm telling you that this thing will likely abate. Secondly, because the mere fact that you pay ransom is not a guarantee that they will release your brother or your sister.
So indeed,
people have paid ransom and they have killed them.
Interrupt you, sir. Two major things. I think that you have brought out the issues very clearly. You've differentiated the kinds of attacks that Kaduna has come under. Before now, we used to hear this cries from communities, villages, and you rightly fully pointed out that those attacks have been on a reduction, a really grand reduction. You say it is due to the efforts of the governor, and that's very commendable, and the steps that have been taken by people in the community and security agencies. However, we've seen a resurgence now, as you rightly pointed out also, that is somewhere that maybe people did not imagine that, these things could actually get there. Schools, tertiary institutions, government institutions in some instances. Now, the question for a number of people is not whether or not the state governor is going to pay ransom. The question is, are the children going to be rescued?
Well, let me tell you, the governor or any other person, any other father in Kaduna State is concerned about these children. The governor is the #1 father in the state. And as the #1 father in the state, he is seriously concerned about the safety of these students. We are all parents, and in our own culture, in our own locality, we believe that children are not just the biological parents' children. They are our children. And therefore, as our children, we feel very, very sad. We feel bad that these children were kidnapped. These children are subjected to torture and so on and so forth. Nobody is happy about the situation. The government is not happy about the situation. The governor is not happy about the situation. But there are the concrete steps that have been taken by both the governor and the security to ensure that these children are returned safely. Now, when they kidnap these children, you know the implication. The implication is they will at times use it as a shell, so that the security will be very cautious in their rescue activities. And so these are things that that security do, that it takes some time to be able to get out of this problem. And I believe that the government is really concerned. I know that as a fact, that he is really concerned. And I know that every citizen in Kaduna State, every reasonable father in Kaduna State is really concerned about this. And we are all going praying and wishing that one day these children will come back safely and sound.
Nigerian, just as you said, you know, so is every Nigerian. So are we. That's
yes.
Why we're talking about this in the first place. But, you know, now we are reacting to something that has happened. And so the question that I would want to ask you right now is there anything we could have done to forestall it happening, to prevent it from happening in the first place? Now we are fighting insecurity. You have said, I mean, it's abated largely, and now there is a resurgence. What could have informed this resurgence that could have been prevented?
Now, first of all, let me tell you something. When the Kagara incident happened, what the Kaduna State government did is to take a look at the schools around and see how they can adjust in order to take care of any eventuality in those schools. Like I said, there are schools that were closed, there were schools that were moved from their locality to a central locality and provided with security. This Afaka issue, it never really occurred to the government that it will come this way, because the school is well fenced. The school is well fenced and it's close to it's close to the town, and so on and so forth. And so when they broke in, it was a shock. But they promptly respond of the military and the security people rescue some students. So the Kaduna State have taken a security inventory of all the schools, and they are doing something to ensure that. In fact, at the last security meeting, expanded security meeting, when he held traditional rulers and so on and so on, some people are saying close down the whole schools. They said, no, we're not going to close down the whole schools. We're only going to close down schools that are susceptible to attacks, and will match them. And they are doing something like that to ensure the future occurrences. These things happen, and as I said, nobody will have agreed that they are going to attack that school. And of course, when it happened, the security promptly respond to that. And I know that what the government and the security agencies are doing, they will soon be able to bring back these students healthy and sound. Because they have been able to map out where the locations are. I want to assure you that they are working to ensure that these students are brought back home safely. And as I said, it's something that the agents, the criminals, use them as a shell. And so security has to be very, very tactical and very careful in rescuing these people, so that at the end of the day, we don't suffer unnecessary casualties.
We also have with us in the studio this morning Mr. Ahmad Suleiman, who is an ambassador of peace and good governance. You're welcome to Sunrise Edit this morning.
Thank you. Good morning, Nigerians.
Well, you have heard, I don't know if you've been able to catch a part of the discussion, but the children who were stolen from the school in Afaka, the ones we're talking about this morning, I don't know how you received the news, especially when you saw the video of those children being tortured and the state in which they were taken. I mean, it was dead of the night. Some were only in their loincloths, and you know, that's how they were taken away from their hostels. And we don't know in what situation they most likely will be in right now. What is your thinking of the recent onslaught on students who are supposed to be in school studying?
I'm out of words. It's really quite unfortunate. It's quite touching. But what is much touching is not just what happened, but the possibility of what will happen again. We are going around the same cycle. And this is because Nigerians have not learned this bitter lesson. The whole of this issue have turned into a blackmail game. These people suddenly attack. They now find a way of twisting the government to at least bargain and settle them. They go back restraining, attack again. It's like we are out of ideas in this. We have failed to come up with a policy. If you read about history of terrorism, America went through this until when America came to a position that no bargain, zero bargain policy. And that was why they got hold of these threats. Now Nigeria, we are facing the brunt of our failure. On the 1st of June 2004, in the Daily Trust, I've published a write-up, Terrorism in Nigeria, Matters Arising. We look at our security policies. They were not designed in terms of our threats. And we call for the restructuring of the security apparatus. We failed to do that. Now we're having a lot of challenges, and we're going through from one instance to another. Now, the issue here is that we have to come to a static position. Zero tolerance on terrorism. Use the money you have to input into our security structures, all the technologies you have had. When I was about 3 years ago, not 3 years, I mean for about 3 years, I was Secretary of Security Committee in Zaria Zone then. I was University Legal Officer at that time. We had what we call monthly security reports. We had reports from SS, from all the security agencies. This has helped us to always be ahead of situations. But now, how far are we in preemptive security? How far have we invested in technology? The money we pay, we settle these kidnappers. The money we settle these people. How far do we invest those monies in improving our own technology? They are modern technologies. They are drones now. You have a lot of things. In fact, some of our policies that this government are doing today, we can rechannel these policies into security.
There's something you said earlier that caught my attention. You said in that article that you wrote in 2004,
yes,
that our security policy wasn't phased right. What was the focus of the security policy at the time?
As at that time, it was government security, more largely based on government security.
What does that mean?
That is regime security. Security that is, you had then, if you look at 2 decades ago, what you used to have was a security that was always very alert in detecting attempted coups, detecting threat to governments, but very slow in detecting threat to civilians, and which ought to be priority, because we've inherited the British policing system. Until after the assassination of Murtala, when the decree that set up DSS came in with regime security then. And the focus was based on our experience. But there are a lot of things coming up, because 70s, 80s, and 90s, and now the trend, not just in Nigeria, the trend across the whole world is that we have nation-building crisis. That's why you have crisis in Somalia. It took the religious dimension, but that is it. It's the same thing. Rwanda, Yugoslavia, Central Africa. These things are not common to Nigeria. But how have we prepared our security? How have we even gone into perception dealing? We have not managed perception. If you look at what is happening now, our security arrangement is so overburdened. They are dealing with immediate threats. They are dealing with opportunity threats. What I mean by opportunity threats is perception-created threats, threats that are created for some benefits. You have challenges with Arewa youth now responding to Igbo about Yoruba live north, how Northerners should live, hip-hop crisis and all that. These are perception.
Okay, just one moment on that same issue that you raised the other time.
Yes.
You remember that in 2019, I think the National Security Advisor came up and said that the national security policy is now more people-centric than center-centric.
Yes.
Do you think that we have moved, even though that policy is in play? How significant do you see that policy in helping us to be more citizen-centric in our security policies?
I think that policy have helped a lot, because if you look at our response to these threats, it may be slow, but we have a system that is now moving to tackle specific security threats. But the problem you have is that while they are dealing with these perception threats, opportunity threats, create other securities, and then the system become overburdened. Take for instance, how long have you heard of any incidents now on this Abuja road? For over than a month, I have been plying that road now from Zaria about twice a week, every week. Even yesterday, I was through that road. And it's quite safe. And as all passers-by, they will tell you, government have been able to deal with. And if you look at how they dealt with Boko Haram, of course, what you have is opportunity attacks now. And then you also look at farmer herders. So you have, but the only issue is that before you see the outcome, it takes time. And then don't forget these opportunity threats I've said. You have politicians who take advantage of this and they try to create an opportunity. And seriously, especially journalists, you have a lot of role to play if we need to get out of this. Because Nigeria as a nation is facing serious challenges.
Just one moment. You said politicians take advantage of what?
they take advantage of these security gaps. It's not that we are not improving.
How do politicians do that?
Okay, I will give you 3 instances. I will start with this blackmail game. You know, when these people, kidnappers or whoever they are, when they kidnap, the next thing you hear is, this government have failed. Now, because of this challenge, most of the governments are so eager to escape this pressure, and therefore they bargain in order to bring back the children. At the end of the day, how far has this taken us? Back to square one. Now let me move away from kidnap threat. Now, in terms of this Abuja Road and most of these directorates, we've made some progress. How far has this become an item of the news? You only hear of the news of an attack. You don't hear of the news of progress, as if nobody gives a damn if Nigeria progresses in this effort to tackle our own challenges. How far have you? Whatever happens in the progress in efforts to tackle security is no longer news. It's no longer an item of news. But let a single incident happen, of negative incidents, then you see it being generated. You see it across all the media. You see the comments. These are opportunities that politicians take.
Some people say that's in the nature of news. That the news is not about dog bite man. It's about man bites dog. You know, sadly. I mean, I'm not praising that, but sadly.
But the point I want you to make before you go, there is a point there.
I think it's very important.
The point is that we have to tell the Nigerian story.
It's very important.
We have to tell the Nigerian story.
The thing that is remarkable about the Kaduna-Abuja road,
yes,
you know, which you brought up, was that at the beginning of this year, we remember that I think 300 female soldiers were deployed to that road. And I think that has been new, that has made the rounds, especially in this Women's Month. That's something to look out for. No, but you're like, it is the truth. I mean, that's an element of news in that particular. Since the female soldiers were deployed to that road,
there was a lot of change. That policy works.
There has been a lot of change. So from that angle, indeed, you know, I do know that some news has come out from there. But that is not dealing with what we have on the ground right now.
Yes, dealing with what is on the ground
right now. We have a challenge with our schools. We saw what happened in Niger State, then we saw what happened in Zamfara. And we've been seeing that, you know, going round. And then now it would seem that Kaduna was the one who now came under the latest series of attacks. The question is, what are we doing to ensure that, you know, other schools, perhaps in Kaduna, maybe outside of Kaduna, so that it will not be that, you know, there's some copycat syndrome happening before you know what's happening. Another state to be reporting another incident. But even within Kaduna itself, what is being done? One, to secure these people, to reassure their parents, because let's not forget that it might be easy to say that you don't want to pay ransom. But for the people who are undergoing the trauma of not having their children at home with them and not knowing what is happening to their children, that must be very difficult to deal with.
Seriously, everybody, we are all undergoing the same trauma. The point we are making, sir.
Oh, we are undergoing it through different levels.
Yeah, okay, different levels, yes, because seriously, every child is a child of the society. And if something happened to any child, it affects everybody. It doesn't matter that that child is not your biological child. Because you just presume that, look, it could have been my son, it could have been my daughter. And so you have that same feeling. Now what has government been doing, especially in Kaduna State? Now, they said constitutionally that the governor is the chief security officer of the state, isn't it? And you ask yourself, what has the governor, what security instrument has the governor to ensure the security of life and property? The police, the soldiers, and every other security men are under the control of the federal government. But realizing this challenge, what the Kaduna State government did is say, look, we need to create a synergy between us and the federal agencies that are responsible for security, so they can be able to get security to secure our people. And said, let us set up the Ministry of Internal Security and Home Affairs. Now, this ministry was set up about a year or two ago. And it is mandated to liaise with these security agencies to ensure that our people, our society is secured. And let me tell you, because communication now becomes free between the government, the federal military agencies, and the state government. And this thing has been going on. And with this assistance of this, we were able to set up small military camps here and there, and they're helping in securing lives and property.
Could you respond to this one? Add this one to it. The fact that these abductions of the students we're talking about now happened in a federal institution, you would think that the Ministry of Education at the federal level should be more concerned about these students because they are directly under their purview. Are they liaising with the Kaduna state government to help get these children out?
Wait, let me just I will come to the school through issues. Please just let me make some of my points. Now,
we're pressed for time, sir. And I think the questions have to be pointed, so must the answers.
Yes, I'll get to that. But just give me some little minutes. Let me just make something. Now, when this, what we now did, apart from liaising with the security agencies and establishing pockets of security posts here and there, the Ministry of Internal Security and Home Affairs is also engaging the society, the community. And that is why all the time you hear him chunking out reports and saying that, look, this is what happened in this place, this is what happened, this is the number of casualties, so that the people will create awareness will created among the people. And the ministry is working a lot to mobilize people towards being security conscious in their environment. And that has helped to bring about security in our state. These soft targets, as I said earlier, on soft target, on schools, on the federal FACA, and so on and so forth. The Kaduna state government, when the Kagara issue came up, did a security intake of all the schools. And we were able to say, look, there's a need to match these schools, move students from school A to school B, that they are more secure. People are moving from Ikara to Barewa College Zaria, so that they can be able to be secured, and so on and so forth. This was done all over the state. As I said, this Federal School of Forestry is a well-secured school. The fences are very high, and it never occurred to government that anything can happen there. And so when it happened, immediately it happened, the response was snappy. They rescued some students and some were kidnapped.
Your response is almost like I see people are blaming the Kaduna. Is anybody blaming the Kaduna state government?
Everybody is blaming the Kaduna state government. You are saying that the government has doing anything. That's the point you are making. But we are saying that the government is doing something.
Okay, I'm not aware of that particular stance, you know, and whether
thank God
that accusation has come from.
Thank you very much.
The question I think a lot of people are asking is what is being done right now to secure. And I just asked you a very pointed question because these students, it would seem, should be directly under the purview. Yes, the school is in Kaduna State, and of course, the governor should be concerned that such a thing happened in his state. But these are students directly under the purview of the Federal Ministry of Education. Do you know if there's been any liaison with the Federal Ministry of Education?
The government, this is like I said, the government is not working alone in securing lives and property. There's synergy between the federal government and the state. As to what the Federal Ministry of Education is doing, I cannot say.
Okay, I'm going to ask you to hold your breath there. We'll come back and then we'll take on these issues a bit more. Please stay with us.
This happening, but let me come back to you. One of the questions that came to my mind earlier in looking at all of these schools, from Chibok to Dapchi to Niger, all across, it would seem like we have had more attacks on federal institutions than state-owned or state-managed institutions. Yes, they are located in the different states. So on the one hand, it's an attack on education, students. On the other hand, they are largely federal government owned or managed schools. What exactly is that saying? Is that anything significant to consider, or is just insecurity, plain and simple?
No, the statement is very clear. They are hitting it where it hurts. They are picking targets that can make them popular, targets that can attract large headlines, so that the hands of the government will be bent backward to begin. But what I'm saying is that let us be knowledge-based in our approach. We should expect this in Kaduna, when the governor was so emphatic among the northern governors that as far as he is concerned, zero tolerance on bargaining. We should expect that. But thank God, whatever he has on ground, we can observe that the targets are more directed, like you rightly pointed, towards federal institutions than state institutions.
But most of the time, the responses and the reactions have come a lot more from the governors, from the state institutions, as opposed to the federal.
Well, as far as states are concerned, governors are the chief security of that domain, that territory. And normally when these things happen, they take charge. But the important fact I want you to pay attention to is, what lesson do we learn from this to avert the future?
We'll come to that, but the question that I'm asking, which is giving me concern, Mark asked the other time,
yes.
Mr. Koza the other time, yes. If there is any conversation between the Federal Ministry of Education and the Kaduna State government. So that question is in a way akin to this,
yes.
Because if we are saying that there are conversations, significant conversations going on between the Federal Ministry of Education and each of the state governments where these things have happened, there would have been fortifications that will prevent this kind of reaction.
Well, from my experience in management in federal institutions, like in ABU, for instance, we had our security committee. And this security committee, though it's a federal institution, but it was largely with the cooperation of state government. We have security advisor of the government then involved, SS and all that involved. You don't have ministry directly playing role in how you secure your environment. The fundings may come from there, but this is a management issue. It depends on the creativity of the management of that institution to either involve local institutions like we did, all the local heads, the district heads, the emirates were involved in our own committee, and all the official and informal sectors were involved. So I think the involvement of Federal Ministry of Education to some extent is limited in federal institutions, because the roles, the participants, those who you need to collaborate to get results are local resources.
Okay.
No, for me, you know, every school management has the responsibility to secure their environment, to secure their school, to secure their students, to secure properties in that school. And therefore, just like rightly pointed out, if something happens in that school, it is the responsibility of the management of that school, the owner of that school, to take steps to address this challenge. Yes, the governor is the overall guy there in charge, but at the same time, specifically, the federal government that owns that African school ought to take proactive action to secure their school, to secure their students. But what they are doing is very limited.
Is that why you said the other time? Just a moment, Mr. Koza. Is that why you said the other time that it's kind of caught government unawares?
Yes, that's why I said because what we did in Kaduna State is to take security inventory of all the schools, and that being a federal school, it didn't occur to really government to talk about it, because look, when there was this grey school very close to the airport, because when they kidnapped the fact workers, government said, look, that school is susceptible to kidnapping, and so they closed the school and mobilized the school, because it is a private school and it is closed government. But this federal school, as I said, it is well fenced. Government never talked about it. The state government never talked about it. And as I said, it's unfortunate. But despite the fact that it's a federal school, I do know that His Excellency the Governor of Kaduna State is very, very disturbed about this kidnap, and he's doing everything possible to ensure that these children are safely brought back home and united with their family to continue their school.
All right, let's take a question from Kade in Lagos. Kade, go ahead.
All right, thank you very much. Gentlemen, just to put this in context, these students have been in the kidnappers' den for 12 days now. That's almost 2 weeks. 39 of them. 26 of these students are female students. The rest are male. We saw that video, and that was earlier on when they were abducted. We don't know what's happening now. Maybe you've slept out of your house for a day. You know how it feels, but having to sleep almost 2 weeks in kidnappers' den, I hate to imagine what might be going on right now. So that's what we're faced with right now. And you probably caught the parents protesting, saying they're giving the government 48 hours. Now for them, it is not federal government alone or state government alone. They're given government, and they specifically said federal government, which owns the school, and the Kaduna state government, in whose territory that school is. And first, let me ask Mr. Suleiman, because, I mean, we've seen the way this has been handled, and for the parents, they are not happy with it. They're saying that this silence is way too much. I mean, you said that every child is a society's child, and you said it could have happened to anybody's child, even to your child. So are you saying that as a parent, if you were involved, you will be satisfied with the way government has handled this so far?
No, I'm not satisfied. One can never be satisfied until this child or these children are back. This is in fact, I'm out of ideas, out of words when I think over this. But the important thing for us is to understand our roles. What is happening now, those who have roles to play are the local resources you have on ground there. Of course, federal resources need to come, but the harness will have to be harnessed through the local resources. I'm not looking down on efforts being made by the state government, but what I'm saying is that we all need to support the state government to remain focused in this zero bargain policy, so that whatever they need to map out, whatever operation, in fact, as I'm speaking to you now, I know of some operations being planned. So, but these are not things you speak out here. But I know from our impact, from our investigations and efforts in this, we know the government is making a lot of efforts. So these are not things you speak about here. So we should now, this is the time to all stand behind the government in this very good policy of no bargain to find a way of rescuing. If these operations are successful and they are able to rescue them, then as far as we are concerned, it will be sending a very positive response that will save us from further or even worse scenario in the future. So that is our concern. Our concern is not that we are not affected by what is happening. We are parents. We have children. If you just imagine your child at home, and you imagine what will happen with these people that have no morality, have no conscience, that anything can happen. You can't even imagine what could happen. All of us are hesitant to even mention what will happen to this, especially the girl children with them. But the issue is that in spite of all this our concern, we should all from now have a policy of rallying around the government to remain focused on this no bargain, so that at the end of the day, God willing, the operations will be successful. They will find a way of bringing these children, and a positive signal will be sent, and other governors will also follow too. And God willing, we'll find ourselves free and away from these kind of threats.
And let me also make this point, sir.
Just a moment, Mr. Cos. Just a moment. Let me just put this in. You can add this to your response. So the parents protested yesterday, giving the government 48 hours. And I believe that, I mean, it's been over 12 hours. So, I mean, the time is ticking. So by tomorrow, they expect the children, the students to have been rescued. But this is what they said. They said that it is now 11 dark days since the unfortunate incident happened. Well, it's 12 now. And we as parents have not received any positive message from either the school management, the Minister of Environment, under whose ministry the school is, or I believe the Education Ministry, or the Kaduna State government, under whose territorial jurisdiction the school is located. And it begs the question, why is the government silent to the parents? What exactly is being done regarding the 48 hours? Because you have largely spoken for the government. Are you confident that the government will get the students rescued in 48 hours?
I cannot say the children will be rescued in 48 hours or in 10 days or in 1 month. But the point I'm making is that I know the government is on top of the situation. I know the government is doing something positive to ensure that these children are brought back to their parents. Now, security issues are issues that are not discussed in public. The government cannot come and tell you, this is what we are doing, this is what we are doing, this is what we are doing. Because if you discuss it in public, of course the kidnappers will take advantage of the information and they will act accordingly. So what we are saying is that let everybody be rest assured that, look, Government is on top of the situation. Government is doing everything possible to be able to bring back this children. But government, as Kaduna State policy, will not give compensation. Will not give. Will not discuss with them. Government will not negotiate with them. Government will not, because they are criminals. Government will not pay ransom for these children.
Mr. Koza, this is not everybody. I'm talking about the parents of the students. I mean, it's understandable if other people don't get information, but for the parents who are directly affected, I mean, I expect that they get briefings on a daily basis, and this is what we're doing to get your children back. Is that too much to ask for?
Government is giving out information, the necessary information. Government is giving out. The minute the Commissioner for Internal Security is on top of the situation. Anybody who wants to know more about it can contact him. But seriously, government will not tell you that this is what we are doing to be able to bring back these children, because it will be leaking their own strategy and plans.
I think that, you know, there is a separate the question that my colleague is not quite being answered. Oftentimes, I think that, you know, we saw this with the Bring Back Our Girls protest. One of the things that they actually brought out from that protest, aside the fact that they were asking for the girls to be returned, was some sort of psychological help to the parents. When children are taken away from parents, the minimum that, you know, parents expect is that the authorities will look for the children or the parents of these children and keep them updated, ensure that, because a lot of, from what we gathered, happened in Chibok, a lot of the parents died of hypertension, died of, worry, constant anxiety, wondering when their children will be back. It's traumatizing for any parents. So the question is there a help desk, you know, for the parents of the children?
The Ministry for Internal Security is the ministry that coordinates these activities. It's the ministry that coordinates these activities. And if
do we know that do we know? I mean, we haven't heard that any such thing was set up in any situation. Isn't that the situation where we are failing? Maybe we do not see the need for that as a people. This is not a government thing now.
I think you have a very good point there. Beyond what you are doing, you shouldn't be carried away by efforts to bring back the children. You know, we are not perfect. Situations, policies improve. From this, we can take as take-home from this program. Government should think of a special, maybe, desk for this. You think of the psychology trauma, what they are going through. What do we have to also, so that we will not be blinded from the parents while we are focusing on bringing back the children. Because, you know, Nigeria is going through what we've never been through before. 2 decades ago, nobody heard of this. We read them in James Hadley chess and we wonder how those things happen. But they are happening now in Nigeria. So every policy, every event, every incident should leave us with some improvement. And I think what Mope is saying here is that it's not an issue of defending or no, it's an issue of looking closely into the policy while we are focusing so much on bringing them back. What else do we need to improve upon the parents, so that we'll not be creating other situations? Because for instance now, if they are now protesting and all that, they're also sending another pressure on you. So if you are taking care of them, you're also helping yourself to remain focused.
Indeed. Well, let's quickly flip this to Chamberlain in Lagos now. Chamberlain.
Well, yeah, Mr. Koza, I mean, even though that wasn't pointed in terms of they don't understand, parents won't understand why government won't talk to them about what is going on. You don't necessarily have to disclose the plans to rescue them, but talking to them is of equal importance. But while you were speaking about twice or thrice, you did say that government didn't see these things coming. The school is well fenced. But you know, this has happened in neighboring states several times. They hit schools. Everyone knows. We've had guests here who have said, look, certain states should be on the lookout because this is likely going to happen. Could you explain or shed a little more light by what did you mean when you say government didn't see this coming?
No, what I mean is that specifically on that school, government government saw the attack on that school specifically. But government know that schools are susceptible to attacks, especially when the Kagara issue come up. And I told you clearly that what government did now is to look around the schools and take a security map of the schools and now decide that, look, this school is susceptible to attack, let us march them. And they marched those schools. I said so before this attack. And I said, look, even the grade school that is close to the airport there, when they attacked the airport staff, government did something about that school. But this federal school, to be specific, government did not really look at it in that perspective. And it came. And when it came, government was swift in taking decision, in trying to rescue these children. So they are there. So government is not silent. Government is not quiet at all about on these issues. Government is aware of it, and government have taken proactive action to be able to forestall this school. Just like I said, these bandits, they will just go on soft targets where you least expect, they will hit and run away. That's what they do. And of course, there's no how the government can be able to take care of every school everywhere. It's there. But the point we are making is that the moment it happened, government took proactive action to pursue them and get those that can be gotten back, to rescue them. And then those that were unfortunate to be kidnapped and taken away, government is also doing something tangible, something concrete to ensure that they are brought back and reunited with their family, healthy and safe.
You know, as a former board secretary and legal advisor of the Kaduna State Internal Revenue Service, I know you know that insecurity will affect the revenue of any state, and then states will always do what they can to ensure that these things don't happen. So in that context, assuming perhaps without conceding that they're doing what they can, doesn't it come across to those who are watching that it does appear as though government is overwhelmed? Because people keep asking, how is it that these chaps, the insurgents, they complete their action cycle faster than security agencies?
You see, the point we're making is that, yes, kidnapping, all these things, it has economic impact. Impact on government, impact on everybody in the society. There's no doubt about that this issue of kidnapping of children, kidnapping of people, and so on, and killing, maiming, and so on and so on, it has economic impact on the society, and not just on government. And as I said, look, whether I like it or not, the truth of the matter is that, yes, government is doing its best, but these criminals are always criminals. It's just like you in your house. You try to secure your house, and you go to sleep. Before you wake up, the thief will come in and destroy and steal from you, and you are taken unaware. So this is something. So it's not just that the government is lukewarm. No, government is on top of the situation. Government is trying its best to ensure that to secure lives and property. And what have you?
And another point in this dimension is that government advisors should know that getting an environment secured is not just physical security of a fence. One lesson we should take away from this is getting a state secured requires three important elements. The element of information, the element of rapid response, and superior power. Now, what lesson have we taken from these incidents so that we have community-based surveillance? Information is very critical. When these people were trooping in, if there was effective information and rapid response, perhaps it would have been even better. So, in as much as we have made physical efforts, because as far as these situations are concerned, most of us are Nigerians concerned about this. We are not talking because of affiliation to any government. Yeah. We are talking because of affiliation to Nigeria. And we want a Nigeria that is secure, that everybody can move around.
All right,
so
Dr. Ahmed
from this, that security is not about putting physical structures on ground.
You know, Dr. Sulaiman, let me...
Security should be about...
Just have a minute, Dr. Sulaiman. You know, in your opening as well, you severally did say the media is not reporting certain things, but you also perhaps slipped your mind that the media did report. In fact, they celebrated the release of several students that were released. Is it from Kagara to Kankara to Dapchi? All of that, the media was awash with that. And when these kind of things happen, the media will report it. There's nothing anybody can do about that. The media, as long as it's an event that occurs, the media will report it. So when you say that when certain things happen in some areas, that the states, they are in charge or they should take charge. But we also do remember Niger State Governor crying out saying he's not getting support from the government. So how do you reconcile that? Because it does appear as though governors know where the problem lies, But nobody is willing to hit the nail on the head or call a spade and not an agricultural implement. They need to restructure security in this country. Isn't that what we should be talking about?
This is a very deep, very deep searching. I've been hesitant on restructuring state security, but a lot of what has been happening for this month have changed my thought. Maybe we should start thinking of a state policing. Seriously, this has forced me to change my position, because why? If we look at most of what has been happening, if we have adequate security arrangements on ground, it would have forestalled it. And now we have a situation where things happen with surprise. Wherever there is element of surprise, there is no assurance.
Well, both of you.
Second, rapid response. Third, superior power. This can be assured when you have state police.
You have spoken largely about fighting an attack.
Yes.
But gentlemen, I would like us to talk about preventing an attack.
Preemptive.
You talked about preemptive action the other time.
Yes.
What kind of preemptive action should we be considering now?
Okay.
What is it that makes this happen in the first place?
Yes.
What do we need to do to
Yes.
ensure it doesn't happen again?
Now, you are touching at the sub point of our security system. We've inherited a policing system, a British policing system, until this Murtala Mohammed assassination and DSS. Now, we had surveillance now. But the issue here is that we should concentrate more on active, proactive security system that check threats. Like from my experience when I was Secretary of Security Committee, most of things before they happen, some elements, if they enter our environment, we have enough information about them and we nip them in the bud before they start into action. Some of them may be cultists coming into ABU, for instance, and all that. So preemptive security is about mastering your environment, knowing things that have security implications, and then following it through, so that before they hatch themselves into a security problem, you are able to nip it in the bud. You know who are there, you know who are involved. There was a time something like that was happening. The first day they were having their meeting, our security system, our security structures were there and they were able to get them. So what we are saying is that Nigeria, if state policing is a way out to give us this kind of security, then let's have it. But
one other thing, Mr. Koza, just this one is for you. Chamberlain asked you the other time about economic empowerment implications or economic degradation in the state as a result of this. And many security operatives will tell you that one of the core reasons for insecurity is inequality, economic inequality, and unemployment figures are still on the rise and all of that. So from your experience working with the Internal Revenue Commission, is there anything government has left undone that should be done to even not make people vulnerable to becoming criminals?
Well, government is doing a lot of things. Government have social programs that is empowering people. Government is encouraging agriculture. Government doing a lot of things in that perspective. But let us shift back to the security issue.
It is a security issue.
Yeah, what do we need to do? What do we need to do? Or what has been done in order to ensure that our society is safe? First, my contention is that there is the need for us to decentralize our security apparatus. If you make
we understand that one, but just speak to us about the economic implications. On the front page of the Guardian newspaper this morning,
there are a lot of economic activities that is going on in the state. Government is boosting agriculture. Government is boosting agriculture.
Would you say it's significant enough to checkmate?
It's significant. People are accessing government facilities in agriculture to boost agriculture.
Okay.
Government is also in the same direction, setting up economic activities. The Kaduna State is talking about establishing ranches, and in this ranches they are bringing in companies abroad to come and manage those ranches.
We're running out of time, but let me quickly bring. I think Kade has a quick question for you. Kade, very quickly, go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. I mean, we're running now, but Mr. Koza, earlier on you said that every school has a responsibility to secure itself, and that was what you said much earlier. So I just want to know the thinking, because we're saying we don't want to see this happen in other schools. So is that the government's thinking that every school should sort their security? Because I wonder how school security will stand against a bandit or a kidnapper with an AK-47. So what's the thinking regarding that?
No. My thinking is, the point, I'm not speaking for the government. I'm not a government speaker. But the point I'm making is that generally it's expected that even in your own house, you have the primary responsibility to secure your property. And so the management of those schools have the primary responsibility to secure before external people comes. So you must be able to put machinery in place in such a way that they can secure it. When it overpowers you, people can come and help you and assist you. That's the point I'm making. That everybody, including you and myself, in their own property, I have the responsibility to secure my environment. And this issue of security, I want to make it clear that yes, it is a responsibility of government to secure the environment, but we as Nigerians, we as a people, have the responsibility also to help government in securing the environment. When you talk about all this kidnapping, all these schools kidnapping, the question you have to ask yourself is, what suggestion has people brought to government to say, look, do this, in respect of this Africa issue? So we expect people to come out with positive solutions to help the government to be able to address these issues.
To parents who are watching this morning, of the children who have been kidnapped, relatives, who are worried, what word do you have for them?
My take for them is that everybody is concerned. Government is concerned. These children are our children, and everything is being done to ensure that these children are safely returned back to their parents and resume school. Because nobody is happy at all about this. And I believe that the governor, as the chief security officer of the state, is also not happy at all. And is not leaving anything undone to ensure that these children are safely returned. The security issues are dicey. Just like I said before, the criminals will use them as a shield. And so if you attack, if you want to apply force, the tendency is that you are going to do more harm than good. And so it needs a lot of diplomacy, it needs a lot of time to be able to secure these
that's your 30 seconds. You want to quickly say something?
Yes, I want to say. Nigeria is going through a serious challenges, but this is not common to Nigeria. A lot of other countries in Africa and Asia are going through this. It is called crisis of nation building. It has economic impetus and other dimensions that forces this crisis out. Nigerians must learn to own up to Nigeria. Let us own up to our own story of how we will respond to this threat. And our governments need to also always improve upon incidents, from one incident to another. These things will not end up coming. But from every incident, what lessons have we learned? What gaps have we seen in our security apparatus? Will be there. But Nigerians should be Nigerians.
Indeed. Okay, it's a fine place to leave it, gentlemen. Thank you both for coming on Sunrise City this morning. Francis Koza is a legal practitioner and also a public affairs commentator. And we also had with us Mr. Ahmad Suleiman, who's an ambassador of peace and good governance. Sunrise City continues in a moment. Please stay with us.